Hello Sounders, it is Mick here. So I know some of you will be disappointed with that draw on Sunday. As I said on Pompey Sound before the game, I'm not one of those. I was full of worry really before the game, and I was content afterwards that we held the line, held our own, because it's no ordinary fixture, that one. The actual football is buried by the torrent of emotion, and you come out of it as best you can. A draw meant pride intact. I just want to talk about being there for a moment. So forgive me, those of you whom, for a multitude of good reasons, family commitments, distance to travel, illness, cost, unavailability of a ticket, or simply preferring to watch it in the comfort and warmth of your own home. All reasons we understand, but being there, Sounders, at that fixture is extraordinary in the true meaning of that word, because you're in the company of 18,000 people on the Pompey side of things, going through the exact same emotional experience that you are. And it gets to you. It gets to everyone. I happen to like group things, group experiences, group gatherings, the theatre, concerts, park runs with others, sporting events, all sorts of sporting events. But they are as nothing compared to the mass emotional discharge of Pompey versus Southampton. It's unique, it's extraordinary, and it's sort of an emotional bonding for 18,000 people. To illustrate that, there's a bloke further down my row in the South Stand, and he's big, he's tall, and he's hard, and he's cool, and he's late. Pretty much every blooming game he's late, and you wouldn't complain. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't roll your eyes. I'm on the end of the row. I'm the first one he comes to get in. I'm used to him, but I don't roll my eyes. During this game, he went for a pee, Sounders. And when he came back, I'm sitting there at the end of the row, and I'm singing along with a few thousand others, and I'm intent on the game as well, and I don't see him. Normally he'd give me a shove and push through, but he waited. He waited until I finished singing. And then I see him, and he gives me a smile and a little fist bump as he goes through to his seat. Every Pompey was in it together. Young guys around me, young blokes I've never talked to, and they were sharing comments about the game of players, stuff going on. Everyone was involved, everyone was at it. No other event is like that. No other communal event that you might go to and sit through is like that. It is worth it. It is worth the effort to go. As a game, there wasn't a lot of beautiful football, that's got to be admitted. But both sides got it. There was fire and brimstone. None of our boys disappointed in that regard. Their goal came from our constant pressure, and our goal came from our constant pressure, and we finished the game again with constant pressure. Nothing to complain about there. nor of any of the individuals John Mousinho put out on the park. I know that they had their share of the game. I know that they're obviously they're hugely expensively put together side. We all know that by now, all the figures that have been tossed around, but millions and millions and millions of pounds worth of player out on that side. Someone told me it was 50 plus million in their side, a fraction on our side, of course, of that. Anyway, let's just go through our more modestly put together side, but one that we can be proud of on the day. Schmidt, as so often, he made 2 massive saves, didn't he, in this game from Armstrong? Armstrong, whom he duelled throughout with, because the guy's quick. The guy pressed him relentlessly with more pace than I can remember seeing at Fratton Park recently in a striker. But those 2 saves of Schmidt's were outstanding. And, you know, I have to just remind, there were a few calling for him to be dropped. Their posts are still there in evidence if you want to seek them out, but I wouldn't bother. We missed Ogilvy very badly over Christmas. Everyone knows that. He tucked in on Sunday to help our central defenders, of whom he'd been won the game before, but returned to his natural position. And he tucked in, I think, relying on the hard graft from Miliali down the left to help cover the touchline area. And Ogilvy was magnificent. And Boat did well inside him, especially in the air, he's growing in confidence, this lad. And then apparently he went off and apparently felt an injury. Not another one, Sounders. And he had to come off after about 65 minutes when he was replaced by Williams. And Ogilvy then moving inside of him. Zach Swanson played in yet another Pompey position. He's vying now with his fellow full-back, Terry Devlin, for the numbers of places that he is seen playing in, and that he deals with really well. And he dealt with this one really well in the centre of the back four alongside Boat. He grows, Zach Swanson, in stature as a Pompey player, as far as I'm concerned. His attitude makes him very, very popular with the fans. Of that, there's no doubt. He and Terry Devlin, both popular, and they completely got and understood the importance of the fixture. And they gave not an inch to the opposition. Except, I suppose we have to acknowledge that the whole team, but that particularly the defenders, did give them an inch or two when it came to the circumstances for their goal, because, as I've said earlier, we were pressing and got completely caught up the park. But having said that, both those lads had really fine games. Ibu Adams had what must hopefully be his defining game for Pompey. He was so good. He gave everything that could be asked of him. And he scored the goal. And then he recognised the importance of the Fratton end and became the running man that's been now quoted so much. And you almost felt the way that he took to the way that he took to the Fratton end, took himself to the Fratton end and presented himself and said, "I salute you," and they gave it all that affection back to him. It was terrific drama, really. Good for Ibu. He also, I think, felt the generosity of Marlon Pack's treatment of him at the whistle. He was as they were leaving the field, you felt that almost there was a sort of handing on the field of the leadership of the team by Marlon to a worthy successor. That's how I saw it anyway. Boos to Ebu. As someone very cleverly posted after the game, 71% of the earth is covered by water. The rest is covered by Ebu. Terrific. Andre Giselle never lets Pompey down, one of my favourite players. He was tired though, but terrific. Terrifically tired. He's done a lot of work in the last few weeks. And both teams really ran themselves into the mud at the end. Miliali is another fine signing. He doesn't allow defenders to discourage him. And he's got enough pace and skill to punish them. Connor Chaplin worked so hard to make a mark. Has to be admitted unsuccessfully, unfortunately. Nor could Andrei Segacic repeat his goal successes of late. But his set-piece kicks are swerving and landing well and becoming a weapon for him and for the team. And Colby Bishop, so maligned, Colby, by many for a lack of goals. By me, I suppose, sometimes I'm disappointed in his lack of goals, but he's still much loved by most of us for his effort, strength, enthusiasm and fight. So, I know I'm looking at this with sort of rose-coloured spectacles this week, but it was a relief to get that point, and it was a relief that we put up a really decent performance, I thought, on the day. Of the subs, Williams is reliable. Marlon Pack, more than that. And he had that moment, didn't he, late on when he saw glory, but booted it away into the Milton end. But he's a wonderful influence to bring on late. And then there is Keshi Stewart Oluyinka Adeto Kumbo. That's his name, Keshi. He had a really interesting last 25 minutes. And he looked worthy of more. And it's another new signing. And there will be more from him to look forward to. Finally, a few oddities. The Fratton end ball boys, one in particular, amused supporters down our end hugely with some, should we call it discomforting ball presentations to keeper Daniel Peretz, who's a pretty competitive man himself, it has to be said, and he looked as though he would like to go and sort it out with the ball boy. Thank goodness he didn't. The ball boy in the Milton end was less lucky, however, having been hit by a firework from the opposing fans. I'm afraid I have to say, incendiaries should be kept out of football grounds, Sounders. Hope he's all right. Finally, on a now this is a downer if it's true. I have to share this with you. I'm not totally convinced that it's true, but a mate of mine, Tom, who I see in the lounge that I go to at Pompey, he told me that he'd just been talking to Eric Eisner in the lounge. That was before I arrived. I was a bit late, and I don't think he was taking the mick out of me, but it's always possible. He does. But I believe him. I believe it is true that Eric was there. But I haven't actually checked this out, Sounders. I'm just talking to you about it, but I haven't actually checked out that it's true that he was there. I'm sure he would have made himself hugely available publicly and given interviews left, right and centre had he and his family not been on the receiving end of ridiculously unreasonable, ignorant, ill-informed moaning during this transfer window. Do you think he wants to talk to people after all that? I mean, of course, if he was over, he would have been talking to John Massigno and all the important people at Fratton Park and sussing out what was going on in the window and all sorts of business that they have to get involved in. But he certainly didn't make himself publicly available, did he? I don't know. Was he there? Yeah, I think he was. And I don't blame him if he was keeping his head down and just getting on with A, pleasure of seeing Pompey, and B, the job of helping own the club. Well, I've no doubt someone will tell me about that. Probably you know before I do, whether that's true or not. It is time to pass the baton on to the next game, which is another big one. Oh, a huge one for Pompey. And of course, we can always look forward, Sounders, to the next signing. Play out, Pompey.